They laughed because the seed has no voice. It cannot argue. It cannot defend itself. It is buried in the cold, dark, silent earth. And from the surface, there is no proof it is even alive. They measure the empty dirt and declare it a grave. They don't understand that the darkness is not a prison sentence. It is the workshop. The silence is not an emptiness. It is the space where the real work is done. There is a fact about the giant sequoia tree, one of the largest and most ancient living things on this planet. For the first 3 years of its life, after that tiny seed germinates, it does not grow upwards at all, not an inch. For 3 entire years, all of its energy, every resource it can gather, is devoted to one single, silent, invisible mission: building a root system so deep, so vast, so unshakably strong, that when it fires, everyone sees the towering giant and wonders at its height. No one sees the foundational empire that holds it there, an empire built in total darkness. That was you. For years they saw empty dirt. They did not see the roots you were building, fiber by fiber, in the silent, airless dark. They laughed, and the sound of it used to live inside your walls. It wasn't just a noise they made. It was a climate you lived in. It was the chill in the morning when you woke up, the static in the silence of your own room. It was the way your own dreams felt foolish before you even got out of bed. They laughed, and you learned to move through the world as if you were apologizing for taking up space. You'd make a suggestion in a meeting, and your voice would sound thin and far away, like it was coming from another room, and you'd see it in their eyes, that flicker of dismissal, the polite smile that doesn't reach the corners, the way they would turn their bodies just a few degrees. Their laughter was a verdict. It said you did not belong. It said your ambitions were a child's fantasy. It said you were not built from the same stuff as the winners, the chosen ones, the people who were meant for more. And the most corrosive part, the part that truly threatened to hollow you out, was that you started to believe the verdict was just. You started to think they were simply seeing a truth you had been too stubborn or too naive to admit. So you built your first world underground, a world of one. It started small, so small it felt like nothing. It was the alarm clock set for an hour before anyone else in your world was awake. That first ring in the darkness wasn't a call to action. It was a gut punch. It was the physical weight of the cold floor under your feet, the ache in your eyes, the part of your brain screaming that this was pointless, that an extra hour of sleep was a more tangible reward than some distant, blurry notion of a future they told. But you did it anyway. You did it not with flourish, not with the dramatic music of a movie montage, but with the grim, plodding determination of someone digging a tunnel with a spoon. You read the book. You practiced the skill. You wrote the code. You ran the mile. You did the rep. And it was terrible. It was boring. It was lonely. The silence in those early mornings was so absolute, it was deafening. There was no one to perform for, no one to witness your struggle. There was only you, and the work, and the ghost of their laughter echoing in the emptiness. Rule 1. Stop watering the dead plants. Their laughter, their doubt, their opinion of you. These are dead plants. You cannot nurture them. You cannot tend to them. You cannot check their soil every morning, hoping for a different result. You have to let them wither. This is the first and most brutal act of quiet power. It is an act of internal pruning. You walk through the garden of your mind, and you see the vibrant, living things, your curiosity, your discipline, a small, fragile hope, and right next to them, you see the brittle brown stalks of what they said about you, the wilted flowers of that time you failed publicly, the choking weeds of your own insecurities. You have to pick up the shears and cut them all away. It hurts. It feels like you are cutting away a part of yourself, because for so long, you have mistaken those dead things for your own landscape. But they are not you. They are just things that happen to you. Stop giving them water. Stop giving them sunlight. Let them die of neglect. Your energy is a finite resource. Stop pouring it into graves. I remember the first time I truly understood what silence could build. It was a winter evening, and I had failed at something. Not a small failure, a catastrophic, humiliating, door slamming shut kind of failure. The kind that makes you want to change your name and move to a different continent. The laughter wasn't just in my head that night. It felt like it was woven into the very fabric of the air. I sat in my car in an empty parking lot, the rain blurring the windows, and I had a choice. I could call someone and complain. I could list my reasons, my excuses. I could perform my pain for an audience and maybe get a few crumbs of sympathy. Or I could just sit there. I chose to sit. I let the humiliation wash over me. I didn't fight it. I didn't narrate it. I just felt its texture, its weight, its temperature. And a strange thing happened. When I stopped resisting it, it lost its power. It was just a feeling. It was not a prophecy. In that silent, rain-soaked car, I realized I was not my failure. I was the space that held the failure. And that space was vast and quiet and mine. That was the day I stopped being a victim of the noise and became a student of the silence. Rule 2. Embrace the glorious monotony. They will never show you this part in the movies. The triumph montage is always 60 seconds of quick cuts and inspiring music. They don't show the 3,642 days that look exactly the same. They don't show you tying the same shoes, walking into the same room, opening the same notebook, facing the same problem you couldn't solve yesterday. This is the secret they don't tell you about mastery. It is not forged in the lightning strikes of inspiration. It is woven in the endless, repetitive, thread-by-thread tapestry of showing up. It is the willingness to do the same simple, fundamental thing over and over and over, long after the novelty has worn off, long after it has become boring, long after your soul is screaming for distraction. This monotony is not your enemy. It is your forge. It is the pressure that turns coal into diamond. It is the friction that polishes the stone. Love the boredom. Seek it out. In a world screaming for your attention, the most radical act is to devote yours, utterly and completely, to one boring thing until it becomes sublime. And then one day, you look up and the landscape has changed. You don't even notice it at first. It's not a sudden thing. It's like the slow coming of dawn. The darkness doesn't vanish with a flip of a switch. It just gradually loses its authority. You're in a situation that would have once crippled you with anxiety, and you find a steadiness in your voice you didn't put there. You're faced with a problem that would have once seemed insurmountable, and your hands just know what to do. The old triggers don't fire. The old fears don't land. They're laughter. You realize you haven't heard it in months. It didn't stop. You just went so far underground, built your roots so deep, that you can no longer hear the noise from the surface. You have become a different entity. You are no longer the seed, desperate for sunlight and validation. You are the root system. You are the network. You are the hidden, living structure that everything else depends on. The change doesn't happen where they can see it. It happens in the cold, quiet hours. It happens in the space between heartbeats, in the decision to read one more page when your eyes are burning, to run one more lap when your lungs are on fire, to try one more solution when every previous one has failed. It is a private revolution, and a revolution that is celebrated is often a revolution that fails. The true shift in power occurs in the shadows, in the unspoken commitment, in the silent recalibration of your own soul. You are not becoming better for them. You are not assembling evidence to present in the court of their opinion. You are becoming whole for yourself. You are integrating the broken pieces, the doubted fragments, the laughed at ambitions, and you are fusing them in your private workshop into something new, something they have never seen before, something they have no name for. Rule 3. Let your results be the only sound. This is the core of it. This is the quiet power. Revenge is a loud, messy, desperate business. It requires an audience. It needs to point and shout, "See what I did? Now you must apologize. Now you must admit you were wrong." Revenge is about forcing a change in someone else's behavior. It keeps you chained to them. Your success, when it finally arrives, must be a fact, as simple and unarguable as a mountain. A mountain does not announce itself. It does not demand you acknowledge its height. It simply is. When you have built your mountain, you do not point to it. You do not gather the laughers at its base and make them recant. You simply stand on its summit, and the view itself is your only statement. Their laughter will die in their own throats when they have to tilt their heads back so far. Their necks hurt just to see how far beneath you they now stand. Your silence, once a sign of your weakness, becomes the measure of their insignificance. I want you to think about a blacksmith. In the old way, the true way, he doesn't start with a grand design for a legendary sword. He starts with a lump of raw, ugly iron. He heats it in the fire until it is pliable. Then he takes his hammer, and he strikes it. Not once, not twice, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Each strike is a small, brutal, monotonous act. The iron doesn't want to be struck. It screams and sparks under the blows. But with each impact, something is happening. The impurities are being beaten out. The structure is being compressed. The metal is being folded in on itself, becoming denser, stronger, more resilient. The blacksmith does this in a hot, dark, lonely forge. No one is cheering him on. The only music is the ring of hammer on anvil, a sound of pure, applied force. This is you, the laughter, the doubt, the setbacks. These are not your enemies. They are the fire. They are the hammer. You are the metal, and you must consent to the burning. You must welcome the blows, for it is only through this violent, silent process that you are transformed from a soft, common lump into a blade that can cut through anything. The day everything changed for me was the most ordinary day of my life. There was no fanfare. There was no ceremony. There was no moment where the clouds parted and a beam of light shone down upon me. It was a Tuesday. I was doing the work. The same work I had been doing for years in silence. And a result presented itself. It was a result so undeniable, so concrete, that it felt less like an achievement and more like a law of physics. It was simply true. And when the news got out, the silence was the most profound sound I have ever heard. The silence from them. The laughter had stopped. It wasn't replaced by applause or congratulations, not at first. It was replaced by a void, a vacuum of sound where their doubt used to live. And in that void, I finally heard it. Not the sound of my own victory, but the sound of my own freedom. The freedom that comes from no longer needing their approval, their belief, or their silence. I had built my own kingdom, and I was its only citizen and its only ruler. They will try to rewrite history. When your results are too loud to be ignored, they will come to you. They will smile. They will say they always knew you had it in you. They will claim they were just testing you, toughening you up. They will try to find a place in your narrative, to insert themselves into the story of your triumph as a supporting character, a wise mentor, a necessary antagonist. Do not let them. Smile back, if you wish. Be gracious if that is your nature. But in your heart, you must hold the truth. They provided the friction, and for that, you can be indirectly grateful. But you provided the forward motion. You were the engine. You were the will. You were the one who sat in the dark, long after they had gone to their comfortable beds. And you built something they could not imagine. Your story is not a collaborative work. It is a solo expedition. Guard its truth. Rule 4. Dart. Your validation must become an internal echo. For so long, you looked for signs. A good grade, a compliment from a boss, a like on a post, a word of encouragement. You were an external validation junkie, and the world is a stingy dealer. It gives you just enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to make you well. The shift happens when you become the source. When you finish a piece of work and you know in your bones that it is good, that knowledge is your currency. When you overcome a personal limitation and you feel the expansion of your own spirit, that feeling is your reward. You have to build an internal compass so true, so calibrated, that you no longer need to check your position against the maps of others. Their praise becomes a pleasant, but unnecessary, ornament. Their criticism becomes data, not a verdict. This is the ultimate quiet power. To be so sure of your own worth that the opinions of others simply lose their gravitational pull on you. Think of the deepest part of the ocean, the Mariana Trench, a place of perpetual darkness, crushing pressure, and absolute silence. No light from the sun can penetrate that far. It is a world of eternal night. And yet, life exists there. Not just simple life, but complex, beautiful, bizarrely adapted life. Creatures that generate their own light. Creatures that have learned to thrive under a weight that would instantly destroy any surface dweller. This is you in your season of silence. You are in the trench. The pressure is immense. The darkness is total. The world above has forgotten you, but you are not dead. You are adapting. You are growing in ways that are only possible under these extreme conditions. You are learning to generate your own light from within. And when you finally decide to ascend, you will not be a creature they recognize. You will be something new, something forged in the deep, something unbreakable. The final act is not a victory lap. It is a quiet integration. The person you were, the one they laughed at, and the person you have become, the one they now watch in silence, are not two different people. They are one continuous line. The doubt was the fuel. The silence was the workshop. The result is the artifact. And now, you must live with this new reality. The strange truth is that the triumph, when it solidifies, can feel almost like a loss. The struggle had a purpose. The fight had a clarity. The quiet, steady state of success requires a different kind of strength. It requires the strength to remain humble, the strength to remain curious, the strength to remember the cold of the garage floor, even as you walk on warm marble. This is why you must never fully leave the silence behind. You must carry a piece of it with you always, a sacred, quiet space inside where the work continues, where the roots are still growing, where the hammer still falls on the hot metal, ring by ring, building something even stronger for the next unknown challenge. So here is your call to action. It is not a shout. It is a whisper. It is the whisper you hear in your own heart at 4 in the morning when the world is asleep and the work is waiting. Go back to the silence. Today, not tomorrow. Today. Embrace the glorious, boring, magnificent monotony of your craft. Do not do it for the result. The result is a fickle God. Do it for the doing. Do it because the act itself is a form of prayer, a communion with your own potential. Let them laugh. Their laughter is the sound of their own limitations. Your silence is the sound of your own growth. Stop watering the dead plants of their opinion. Pick up your hammer. Step into your forge and strike. Just once. Then again. Then again. Do not count the blows. Do not look for the shape of the final blade. Just commit to the rhythm. The fire will not consume you. It will temper you. The hammer will not break you. It will define you. Build your root system so deep that no storm can ever uproot you. And then, one day, when you finally break the surface, you will not be a sapling, begging for sun. You will be a sequoia, and they will have to look up, and up, and up, just to see the lowest of your branches. They laughed until you changed everything, and you changed everything without ever making a sound. Now go. Your silence is waiting, and it has a power they will never, ever understand. The seed they buried was a sequoia.